Oh, I was a little girl when I used to have to do the dishes. And we used to have cows that we had no milking machine at that age. And I used to have to help milk the cows. Walt wanted a date with me to go to do a show on Saturday night. So I said, well, all right, I'll go. So, I don't know, we went downtown Chicago Theater, I guess, and so that started our courtship. Oh, he was I could say nothing but the best. He was a homebody, good to the children. We enjoyed life together, to pack a sandwich and go to the park, or just go over and watch them bowl, or I never had a babysitter. We always took the kids with us. I had babysat for so many people in their homes, and it was good to the kids. So they used to call me Grandma. Women now, they're 60 years old. They'd call me Grandma. They don't call me nothing else. I was taken up with my life, never a dull moment in my life. My name is Geneveive Schoenfeld. I was born January 3rd, 1900, the daughter of Brian and Molly Mahoney. And Waukon, Iowa, Lycurgus. I thought, wouldn't it be lovely if I had a little house built next door to my mother's, and I could get all my work done and put on an apron and sit and have nothing to do. I could crochet or write or what. And my mother used to laugh about this. And so it was my sister and my job to do the dishes when, after breakfast, when my mother went to work in the garden. And we would run around the table and tip over chairs, and my mother'd come in an hour later, no dishes done. She never whipped us. She just said, now I thought you would do the dishes. And one time she was in the garden, and I thought, oh, I'm going out to the garden. And I got out in the middle of the yard, and my father had a bunch of hogs, and they were red hogs, and they were big. And so I hollered to my mother, and the hogs come running towards me because they thought I was calling them. And I started crying, and they started just coming up closer and closer to me. And my mother seen them, and she was afraid I'd fall down and the hogs would eat me or bite me. And she come running to get me. And don't you ever try to come to the garden like that again. We'd have evening dinner, maybe early, and go out to milk the cows at 6 o'clock or 6:30. And so there were certain cows I liked to milk better than others, because some of them might kick or were tough to milk. So I'd sometimes leave the table and go out, and my father and they'd all say, let her go out, and I'd have milked a couple of cows before they'd come out. They were pulling the joke on me. So I had 2 brothers and 2 sisters, Tommy, Florence, Emma, Loretta. I was the second oldest.
And who was the
My brother was the oldest, and he was the first grandchild in my mother's family.
Tommy?
Tommy, and was he spoiled. He could do anything he wanted, and nobody would ever spank him or anything. He was just so well liked by the family. My father and mother used to like to play cards, and they'd go to different houses in the winter and play cards, play progressive euchre. And so one time I wanted to go, and I thought they should take me, and I wanted to go, and I cried, and my mother said, you can cry as much as you want, but you're not going to go. And my father bought I guess they called it a cutter, and it was bright red cushioned, velvet seat, and red on the outside, the velvet seats. And we had 1 horse, a bay horse, and he was a pretty horse. And way off they went to play cards. And they ran into a snowdrift and tipped them over, and they both rolled out. But the horse didn't leave them. And so they got back in the cutter, and away they went. Oh, that was fun to see them go on. And then later on, my brother was older, and he had a girlfriend. He used to go with this horse and cutter to visit her. I went to grade school, and we used to have dances, box socials. You'd fix a box with a sandwich and cookies and maybe an apple or a banana in it, and go to this, and you'd have your shoebox, all decorated with tissue paper, different colors, and a bow on it. And then the men would bid on the boxes. If you bid $1, the other guy bid $0.25, and they'd run it up. And especially if they happened to know who it was. And then whoever, the last bidder, highest bidder, had to pay for that. That went towards the school fund. But then he ate the lunch with her, which was about 10 o'clock in the evening, and during the week or Friday night.
Were the guys after you?
Oh, I wouldn't say that. We were just sociable. In the winter months, you were in the side, so there was, we had wood stoves, so we had blocks of wood out in a little room, and we used to take old hats and make them over with ribbons or tissue paper or something, and we'd have a show, a Milner show, and that was a great thing. I was going to go to high school, so I registered and went, and it was staying with my aunt and uncle, and my uncle was Uncle Pat, my father's brother, and his wife, and they had 3 children. And I used to have to wash the dishes after they sometimes get their breakfast and get ready for school. And then the same thing in the evening. And then I found a fellow that I liked in school, and we went to one show. I remember that so well. And then my mother got sick, and she was in the hospital. So I used to go to the hospital and visit her, and they were short on nurses, and I'd have to bring this one a glass of water and someone else something else. And so then I'd go home and have to do my homework, and then I had to help with those children. So as it went on, about 2 weeks, and Mother was going to go home, and my sister was going to school, and so I said, I think I gotta quit and take care of my mother. So I quit school and took care of my mother, and that's all the education I ever got. Well, see, I was working at different homes who the mother would be sick or she had a new baby, and I'd have to get the meals and clean the house and make cookies and make bread and haul water. One place I had haul water for about a half a block, and haul it home in 2 pails, one on each side, and so that took several pails for the rinse water, and I had to boil that water, and no washing machine, and wash them by hand the next morning, then boil them, then rinse them, and then hang them out. In the winter, you hung them out in the cold, and they froze stiff. And sometimes they'd freeze dry, and then again, you'd bring some of them in, and they would be still stiff and frozen. And I did that for several years, and finally, a neighbor friend of my mother said, you know, your daughter is working too hard, and for such little bit of money. She said, you know, my daughter is working in Dubuque, Iowa, and she's working in a new nurse's home, giving out linens and taking care of the parlors and so forth. And why don't you let her go there? It'd be so much better for her. And she just can't keep this up. So I guess my mother cried but I never knew it till later, for 2 weeks. And finally, it came day to go, and I went. And well, of course, I was sad leaving too. And my mother came to visit me different times, and my father came to visit me. And so I got work in the nurses' dining room. I liked all the nurses, and they were very nice to me. And of course, we didn't get much money for working, $10 a week, and room and board was our pay. So I would take that money. I had to do my own hair, except if I got it cut. And I used to, of course, the nurses had to pay for their nursing instructions. So I used to, a lot of times, wash their hair, and that's so I could cut their hair. And I never charged them a cent, but they were always really good to me. They were really lovely. And so it worked out real good. This girlfriend I worked with, her parents were moving to Chicago. Their brothers, their sons were living here, and as young men, and in their 20s, and they were working at Harvester Company. And so she wanted me to move too, and I said, oh no, I can't see myself going there. Gee, that seems so far away. I didn't want to go. Well, just come, and if you don't like it, you can go back, come back. Well, she talked me into it, so I came. Well, I tried to get on at the telephone company. I took the instructions there, and went to school and everything. Then they didn't need, they were filled up with operators. I also went to Western Electric, filled out a perform. In the meantime, I worked at Chicago Mail Order, sizing dresses, put the sizes on them. So finally, I was called to Western Electric, where I had to take the L from where they lived. And so I worked there for, I don't know, about 3 years. And then, well, in the meantime, I met my husband through those people whom I was living with. And Walt was a friend of their brothers, and he came to visit. So he asked this girl to go out to a show with him, and she went. And I was satisfied at home. I could go or stay home. It never bothered me. So then her brother says, you know, one day that Walt wanted a date with me to go to a show on Saturday night. So I said, well, all right, I'll go. So, I don't know, we went downtown, Chicago Theater, I guess. And so that started our courtship. Then we went the next week, and then it got to be every week. We'd go out for dinner on Sunday, and if we didn't go dancing, we used to go, there was this girl's brothers, and they had a car, and we'd all go to the Irish hall for dancing on Sunday night. And we'd rest all afternoon on Sunday, and they used to dance the Irish
Jig?
No, the Irish square dance, it was like. And those guys that we were with, they didn't know how to dance this, and they'd get in and spoil the whole thing. They'd get in the ring and spoil the whole thing. But we learned to do it. We had a lot of fun, and then finally they did too. Well, when we got married, you want that?
Yeah, well, I just want to know what he was like. You know,
Oh, he was a wonderful husband, always thinking of the kids, and a good provider, liked other young fellows. Our place was a place for the young fellows to congregate, and my sister's girlfriends and mine, which weren't too many, but the boys, he got to know so many boys from my hometown neighborhood that were in Chicago, and they all came to my house, played cards, and well, then they drank just soda. There was no beer, or they didn't drink beer like that. And when they came to go to service, when war was declared, I'm telling you, I think there was 6 or 7 guys at my house that night talking it over. And we had a big home, a parlor, second parlor, 2 bedrooms, dining room, kitchen. And they were welcome. They could play cards, they could talk, or do as they liked, or listen to radio. And
what kind of guy was he?
oh, he was I could say nothing but the best. He was a homebody, good to the children. On Sunday, while I'd be getting dinner, we'd take them to church, come home. While I'd be getting dinner and straightening up, he would take them over and watch them bowling, over to the bowling alley. And then they'd come back and we'd have dinner, maybe take a rest for a while, or maybe take a walk to the park. And they'd go on the swings or whatever. We didn't have no car for some time.
So he was a family man and a good
Oh, yes, 100%. Always buying something for the family, and thinking of vacation. We only went back to my hometown, visit my father and mother and friends. And during the war, there was, you couldn't get, in the meantime, we had got a car, and you couldn't get gas without, it was only those working in someplace that was giving aid to the soldiers, that could get gas coupons. So this one fellow, where I used to room, he said, I have extra gas coupons, I'll give you, and you just go. And we went. And so I went out to buy a suitcase. I didn't have no suitcase, and the only kind of a suitcase I could buy at that time was a tin suitcase, and I still have it.
Oh, yeah.
I still have it. I keep my Christmas trimmings in it. I tried always to be a good wife, loved everybody, nationality or religious never bothered me. I loved people. When I left the neighborhood, they brought me towels, they brought me dishes, and so many things. I took care of a lady upstairs that had a stroke. She used to go to Florida every winter, and my husband took care of her furnace. We took in whatever mail she got, and we had a furnace. He took care of both furnaces, and she came home in last of March or last of April, March or April, and she just idolized my oldest son, and he could sit up at her desk, and if he tore up the papers or whatever he did, it was perfectly all right. Whatever he did was, she even took him downtown to Marshall Fields and bought him a whole new outfit, and he was only 3 years old. Now I would be scared to death to let her go downtown with her, but she took him on the streetcar down to Marshall Fields and bought him a suede cap, jacket, leggings, and all. We spent the day, had lunch, came home. We were very close, yeah. We'd take them to the park, we'd take them everywhere, every vacation. And sometimes Kenny's, or the boys that want to stay with my sister, my youngest sister, Loretta, in Dubuque, and we'd go on somewhere else and come back. Maybe we'd stay overnight, and they would rather stay there. And we enjoyed life together, to pack a sandwich and go to the park, or just go over and watch them bowl, or I never had a babysitter. We always took the kids with us. My sister she was like a second mother, and we bought him one a fire engine, and the other one, the car that goes with it, the police car, or what is it? And they used to play in the backyard, and they had swings, and it was nice and shady out there, and they had swings, and they raced down they could play anything, or dig, or whatever they liked in the backyard. So they'd race down the walk, and one would be supposed to be the fire chief, and the other was with the fire engine, and they'd be honking his horn. At Easter time, we always, we got the kids chickens. And so the chickens grew up, and they used to stay right in the yard. Never got out of the yard. We didn't cut their wings or anything. And they used to go up the steps where this other lady, and in the morning they'd crow, you know.
This was in the city.
Yeah, and but they were always there. Then we got a turtle, and it was a little bitty thing, and it grew, and we had it in water, in a tub. So finally it got so big in it, and got out of the tub. And we always kept water there for it. And the man next door, it was an old man, he used to sell popcorn. And well, anyway, we went out, and when we came back, we thought the turtle's gone, surely. Here comes the turtle. Here it's about 6 to 8 inches long. It's a big thing. Yeah. And this man next door used to sell this popcorn. He had a horse and wagon. And we used to go, we'd point their finger at the horse, and the horse would run towards the fence. It's a wonder he didn't jump over the fence, because he was in that yard, you know. And but he never did. Well, it's that. So, we took the chickens. The chickens, we still have them now. And so when we went, I'm ahead of my story. When we were going to Iowa on our vacation, we thought we'd take the chickens with us and put them on the farm. So we did. We took them, and we left them. Took them, and we had them in my brother's basement in Dubuque. And then the next day we took them and took them up on the farm. Well, they were like a city slicker. They didn't know nothing about the farm. And they'd hop up on the fence and jump down. The other chickens would run after them. They'd run from them. And so anyway, they got up on the what do you call it, the slop bowl, where they put the separated milk, and they give it to the pigs or chickens. They have a big...
They drowned.
And the one did not drown. Went in, and we got it out before it drowned. And it was all meal and, you know, stuff they had in there, and the milk for the hogs. So, Walt felt so bad, he cried, because, you know, that we raised no chicken. But anyway, it was all right. But they were just like city slickers coming to the country. You know, they didn't know nothing about the country.
What happened to the turtle?
The turtle, I don't know, it finally left, I guess. I don't know. And he was a good baby, and my sister just adored him like it was her own child. I'm telling you, she was wonderful. And she took care of him when I went in to have my second baby, Raymond. And that was in August, 18 months later. And they used to bring him across the park. Her and her girlfriend would be across the park from where the hospital was, and they'd wave to me up in my bedroom at the hospital. And when I came to come home, the day I came home, Kenny stood, he kept looking at me as much as say, "Oh, Mama, are you back home again? Are you coming back?" He didn't know what, you know, he was that young. So finally, we got home, and my sister had the baby, and so he climbed up on the chair, and I took him, got up on my lap, and he was so happy, you know, that I was home. And Raymond was a very good baby, never cried. You feed him, put him down, he'd go to sleep. If he'd whine a little, after an hour or so, you turn him over on his other side, he'd go right off asleep. I had babysat for so many people in their homes, and it was good to the kids. So they used to call me Grandma. And I have girls or women now, they're 60 years old. They'd call me Grandma. They don't call me nothing else. And they know my name, has remembered me, but they call me Grandma because I was really, and I hear from them at Christmas and my birthday, and they say, oh, I just want to see you so bad, because they remember me like they do their mother, because I was a good grandma. And one little girl I took care of, she had heart trouble as a baby, and her mother could leave her with nobody else. And I used to go there and stay her while she'd go shopping or go to the hospital. And so she died just 2 years ago. And we used to go, tell you how good my husband was, Walter was. We used to go visit them. They moved, and we used to go visit them about 5 blocks away or 7. And she used to, her mind was a little affected, and they couldn't, well, they didn't have the time in any schools to keep up. They sent her to a private school. And she learned a lot from just her own family and father and mother. So she used to say to my husband, to Walt, Walt, let's go for a walk. Want to go for a walk? And he'd say, sure. And he'd take her for a walk, and she'd be so happy. Now, she just died about 2 years ago, I guess it was. Yeah, she died. Oh, she was an angel, telling you. And I don't have one friend, I mean, one person that I know that was a friend of mine that became an enemy. Not one. And I've done work for more people. I've ironed, worked in the laundromat after my husband died, and ironed shirts for people and babysat. And I don't think there's one person can say that I got angry at them or anything. We're still in good friends. That's why I think I got 65 cards for my birthday, or for Christmas, and then all those birthday cards. The reason I'm so happy, because nobody else's business bothers me, and I don't bother myself with anybody else's business. And I like to be left alone and be pleasant with everybody. And I don't believe in this nagging at neighbors, hollering about every little thing that goes wrong, talking about people and then being, talking there's something wrong about them, and then being nice to their face, being two-faced. That I can't stand. I have been a Catholic, of course, all my life. Went in the country when I was in grade school, and even after. I used to walk 2 miles to church on first Friday of the month. 2 miles. My religion, I will uphold at any time. I'm a Catholic, and I will live a Catholic till I die. I think I was a good mother, a good grandmother, and I was good to everybody. That's what they even tell me yet. When I go back home, people that I took care of as babies came to see me, believe it or not. I took care of them as babies. And you would be surprised at the people that call me and talk to me and, wanted me, one lady wanted me to stay another couple days after I was there, over 2 weeks. And from everyone that I visited and came in contact, they told me, do try, and even since I've been home, do try and come and visit us next year. And they said before I left, this is a standing invitation now, and I can show you the letters. So I have nothing but good words for everybody.
So people have been good to you because you've been good to them?
And that's life.
What's life? Tell me what
and
life
if you don't, if you're not good to people, they will not be good to you. And if they're not good to you and you're a good person, they will suffer, you'll see.
Tell me what life is to you.
Well, life is lovely. I love my grandchildren. Love them. They're grand. My sons are ideal. They call me every week and sometimes every day. I don't care if they call me every other day or every day, but I love to hear from them. And the grandchildren call me and call me.
Did you ever relax during your whole life, 91 years?
Well, I relaxed when I just said I'll relax. And my life was, I was taken up with my life, never a dull moment in my life.